What's the best example of it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it that you know of? Me. I worked at the same company for 10 years and had an excellent reputation. Some wild stuff went down and all the managers except for me had to be replaced. My reputation was fine at that point. Then we hired this crazy guy who was lying and saying strange things a lot, then he was sexually inappropriate with a customer. I reported all of this to my boss. This crazy guy made up even bigger and more compelling lies about me. They believed him. I didn't do anything fireable, but they transferred me to a different location. I was told that I needed to shape up to save my job despite 10 years of maximum raises and promotions and glowing feedback. 2 days later, the guy was fired by HR because a customer reported him for sexual harassment. Nobody said a word to me, no apology, nothing. I quit in January. Suck it, Office Depot. Director of a place I worked sent an employee a dick pic as a long shot. Employee was at a party where she promptly showed other people wondering, WTF just happened. He had access to her phone number, but she had never willingly given it out to the director for any social engagements. Obviously, he went through files and found it and thought it was a good idea. The worst part was that it was a picture of someone else's dick that he was claiming to be his. Anyway, he came in after his weekend and, after a brief HR visit, walked out. Oh, his wife worked there too and had just had a baby. The workplace is like high school, so everyone knew what happened about 2 hours after he was walked out. Marriage and career ended in the speed of sending a text. Small big industry, and the news got around fast about the whole ordeal. At the time, the place I worked at was in CA, and the place that happened was on the East Coast. It wasn't even a former co-worker who told me the story, but my new manager who had never even worked at my old place. I then asked a mutual friend, my ex-husband, if the rumors were true. He confirmed as he was right next to the employee who received the text and unfortunately saw it with his own eyes. Yes, but in a good way. He ruined a bad reputation. So, my cousin is special, which is to say, autistic. As such, he got sheltered as a child and teenager by his mother and came into adulthood as a spoiled, sheltered manchild who could barely function socially and wasted his money on stupid shit. Basically, he was like Chris Chan, didn't make videos of himself. He went incognito from 90% of the family when he was like 23, 10 years ago, and did his own thing away from the rest of us, and nobody complained about that. We heard about him getting and losing jobs, getting into fights with people, doing drugs, etc. But turns out it was exclusively the bad stuff that got around. Last Christmas, as it turns out, he was clean, no drugs, that spoiled, toxic attitude he used to have was gone, and he was cooking burgers for everyone at the family Christmas dinner. They were delicious. He'd apparently been holding down a steady job the last 6 years, hadn't been in a fight for about that long, and refers to his drug years as my stoner days and jokes about them. But the 5 minutes that really turned his reputation around? My sister started choking on an underchewed piece of burger. We were all talking amongst ourselves and didn't notice, but he did. He left the stove, ran over, started palm striking her in the back and got her to cough up the big lump of unchewed burger and bun. We didn't notice anything was wrong till the first strike. Once she coughed it up, he just says nonchalantly, "Yeah, see, there's your problem," like a mechanic noticing something wrong in an engine, gesturing to the lump. He showed us all up that day and proved to all of us that we were completely wrong about him. Or at the very least, what we knew was severely outdated and negatively biased. My mom ran a daycare for almost 20 plus years. It was her own business that she built up. Not only did I attend it, it was my first real job. And I fell in love with childcare because of it. We were very accommodating, we weren't too strict. Our goal wasn't to get a 3-year-old to read at a 4th grade level, but to give parents what they needed, making sure the kids were safe and well cared for. Helping out along the way with potty training and weaning and such. We had such a long wait list, but still found a way to get the children who really needed it care. My mother sold it to a larger chain daycare when she retired. They made a bunch of changes, made a bunch of promises that kids will be reading, potty trained by 2 to 3, perfect little angels. Every child is different. You know why every child was potty trained by 3? Because if they weren't, they were kicked out. No comfort items at nap time. Because they were making little adults instead of babies. It took about 6 months and the wait list was zero. They were offering incentives to sign your child up. They could bring on workers. I think it downsized, but eventually closed. At my old company, we produced consumer goods and licensed lots of high-end pop culture brands. On a call with a team representing a very popular and iconic space movie franchise owned by the Mouse, one of our senior partners was sitting through a call on rights or sales numbers or whatever with like 20 people, thought he was on mute and said something to the effect of how much longer do we have to listen to this obese idiot jerk himself off talking about his bees anyhow. The call was abruptly ended. All follow-ups ignored. Maybe a week or two later we got a letter terminating all current and developing licensing deals for cause citing contract violations, and the company was effectively quietly banned from ever doing business with any brand under that massive Mouse umbrella. That dude lost them hundreds of millions in future business in about 15 seconds. When you first start, you're told never to suggest pitching anything owned by the Mouse and then get told the story. The company was the worst job and culture I've ever had. Amazed it stays in business. Elon Musk. A few years ago, he was a keynote speaker at the annual American Geophysical Union Conference. 25,000 scientists and engineers in attendance, and everyone wanted to hear him speak. Bear in mind that at the time, he was broadly perceived as a brilliant visionary who was going to save the world and, even more astonishingly, do it using his own money. So the room is packed to standing room only, and he has the floor for like 2 hours, speaking first and then taking questions from the floor. And it was amazing. The room just deflated. These people, mostly PhDs, listened to him talk and, most significantly, heard him respond to questions. And with every word it became more and more clear that he was an egotistical, arrogant moron who believed so strongly in his own genius that he believed anything he said must be true. He walked into a room full of fans, he left a room full of critics who would never trust him again. Didn't take too long for the rest of the world to see it too. Well, most of us, anyway.